Welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw.
And I'm your host, David Khourshid, also known as @DavidKPNO.
Together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions.
Yeah, so we are going to be creating a fun 2020 animation from scratch live using HTML, CSS, and a really tiny bit of JavaScript.
JavaScript? Are you sure?
No.
No. We'll see. We'll see about the JavaScript. That's up for debate. But this show is made possible by your support. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers. You can also hit the like and subscribe buttons around here. We've got additional links available below. And we also have merch. Woo! You can go to keyframe.rs/merch and pick up some sweet shirts, stickers, and lots of other things that are worth checking out. This is the hypertext markup language design, one of my favorites.
Yeah, I have a couple shirts. I forgot to wear one, but they exist in my closet somewhere.
Yes. So yeah, check it out. Keyframe.rs/merch.
Yeah. Also, you'll notice there's chats, there's comments, so please give us any questions that you might have, and we're happy to answer them on the air or afterwards. So please reach out.
Yeah. If you're watching this later on YouTube and are short on time, you can skip ahead to the animation summary that we have at the end called Keyflections. There's a timestamp link down below. And if you're joining us here live on Twitch, thanks for coming along for the journey.
Yeah. So.
Wow. Yeah. So. Yeah. So let me drop that link in the chat here, and we'll talk about what we're doing today. How about it?
So this is a 2020 animation. It was made pretty recently, I think just a day ago, January 5th. And it's a really cool animation because it takes a creative concept of 4 circles, almost looks like an Olympic, the Olympic rings, but they spread out, they go in sort of a staggered position, and then they expand to the numbers 2020, which so happens to be the year in which we live today.
Yeah. It's definitely a cool animation. Got a lot of little features to it. I think we're gonna simplify a little bit. Just to make it a little more digestible. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Desiree. Or Henry, if you will. So yeah, 4 overlapping circles, they expand, and then draw out 2020. Yeah, awesome. So dive right into the code.
Yeah, sure. So did a little bit of setup, just the normal amount of setup we do, and we have a little SVG tag, because the way we're going to approach this is we're going to be using path. And path allows us in SVG to draw these curved lines, and that's exactly what we want to do. So just like we approach our other UI animations and everything else, we want to think about what the start and end states are. In this case, we have circles, so we know that we're going to want some sort of path that looks like a circle. I don't know if we could use just a circle. Probably not, because we do want to have that drawing animation, so we're planning a little bit ahead here. So we have 4 circles, but we also have 4 paths that are going to, I guess, quickly switch places with those circles and draw themselves out into 2s and 0s. And can you guess how we're going to draw that out?
No.
Okay, well, I'll tell you. We've actually done it before. It's a stroke-offset. That's a property we're going to be using.
Old friend.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty clever property when used to create these drawing animations. There's a really old article on CSS Tricks called How SVG Line Animation Works. Funny enough, the slug is just SVG Line Animation Works, which is pretty optimistic, but it's how SVG Line Animation works. So I'll link to that as well, and that's the technique that we're going to be using.
Yes. So we got stroke dash offset there, and then SVG line animation that David's included here. Yeah, worth checking those out.
And so the funny way that this works, and we'll get more into it as we actually create these, is that with stroke-dasharray, we could make a stroke dashed. Simple concept. Instead of a solid line or a solid path, we have dashes. And if we make the dash as long as the entire stroke, I mean, SVG technically allows that. But then if we use dash offset, we could actually make it so that it's only part of the path. So it's an interesting illusion, but it does work. So no, there is no need to draw this line. We do have to get a little bit clever with SVG using dash array and dash offset in order to create that animation. So are we going to hand code these SVG? You know what? Why not? We're going to hand code some SVG, and Shaw has already started over here.
Well, I was just trying to demonstrate a little bit of what you were talking about, so that it's so that stroke-dasharray is understandable.
Oh, so will that work on circles?
Stroke, yeah, and stroke-dasharray will work on circles. I'm not seeing the circle at all, though. So let's go fill red.
Yeah, so, you have to give it a stroke. Yeah,
it's got a radius. It's got a stroke. What's going on here? Something else is off with it.
Yeah, let's try stroke width, stroke, path fill. Do we have our numbers?
There we go. Hey.
What was it?
Equals 100. Okay, so there we go.
Aha, perfect.
All right, so now you can see that. So if we add the attribute stroke-dasharray and say 0, 200, or let's see, 10, 10 will give us an actual dashed line effect. So you get that. Great little effect there.
Sorry.
No, you're good. But if we do something like 200, 200, let's see. Well, what would the path length be there? So should we use that that path length attribute?
Yeah. See, this is where I'm saying we need a little bit of JavaScript. Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, yeah. So.
Yeah. So if we say path length equals 1, then we can just tell it 1, 1 as our stroke-dasharray. And what that will do is we can now use stroke-offset equals 1, and our stroke will go away.
So if you do like 0.5.
0.5 should give us half of a stroke.
Okay.
Yeah.
So path length. So we're basically tricking it into thinking that the length is 1. So however long you think the length is, like if it's 50 pixels, 100 pixels, forget about that. Pretend that you're 1 pixel. So I'm guessing that that's what that's saying, right?
Right. So typically when you're doing these kinds of stroke animations, you use JavaScript and you detect the actual length of the path, so that you can use that as the value for stroke-dasharray and the stroke-offset, and it works just fine. But something that Chrome and Firefox have added is, I believe it's a part of like SVG2 spec, which is not really a thing, but some browsers have implemented parts of it. Path length being one of them. It tells the browser to just consider this path to be whatever this unit length is. So yeah, that's a massive shortcut for this. So you should definitely check that out.
Yeah, that is really cool. I learned something new. I think we talked about it at one point, but
well, I think you actually showed it to me at some point, and I've got a few animations that use it out there. That's worth looking at. So yeah, while you're doing some So I think we're going to have to do 4 separate SVGs and layer them, David, for the ease of transforming them apart, is what I was
Yes.
considering.
Okay. That makes sense. All
Yeah.
right. So
Just
we'll
before you
choose.
get too far on that, but real quick before we move away, so let me go from stroke-dasharray and just show that animation there. So fill.
Yeah. Sorry. Do the last one. Or I could comment these out.
Just do fill none. And that last one, stroke, we'll make it red so it's easier to see. There we go. Okay, and so what we want to do is from stroke-offset. Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us. So you can see how it's going from a closed circle to a half circle because we have the stroke-offset set here. If we take that off, we can actually just control that completely and go to in the CSS. So from stroke-offset 1, wow. Okay, stroke-offset. Man, I'm getting some serious lag. I'm sorry if you're seeing that on the video. There we go. Stroke-offset 1. Yeah, so you can see how it's going from a full circle to no circle. And then if you continue that around, it will actually kind of draw itself out as well. So you can get some really cool effects just using simple paths in SVG or shapes in SVG, and then the stroke-offset, especially with pathLength 1. So, yeah, there you go.
That's great. In the CSS tricks article, SVG line animation works. There's a section titled "So Why All the JavaScript?" But this pretty much obviates that need. We no longer need any of that JavaScript, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I wish you could set it in CSS. I don't think that's a property that's CSSable, but that would
CSSable.
that would be huge. All right, so CSSable, yes. Copyright, patent pending. So, what I was saying earlier is I think we need to do 4 separate SVGs, and then the way that the animation starts out, all these circles are overlapped, and then they spread out and go from there. So animating transform in SVG with just CSS has a lot of cross-browser issues. So this is a way to get around that by splitting everything off into its own SVG.
Yeah. So let me talk about just real quick the SVG view box, just because I've always wondered what those 4 random numbers meant. But what this is 4 values. We have the X, the Y, the width, and the height of the SVGs. So when we say 0, 0, that means, I guess, the starting point is X is 0, Y is 0, and that's what we're going to base our SVG coordinate system on. And then 100 is the width. So we're saying X goes from 0 to 100, and 200 is the height. So we're saying that Y goes from 0 to 200. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But these are what the size of our SVGs are going to be, each of our numbers.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, ViewBox essentially establishes a window. So you can actually have an SVG document that's huge, but this view box kind of allows you to like zoom in on a portion of it and kind of crop out exactly what you want to see, or create a bigger canvas if you want something within it to be smaller. You can scale all that, which is super cool.
All right, so we should create these numbers. I'm going to do a little bit of path math.
Path math.
Path math. If I remember correctly, I've actually been working a lot with path on the XState visualizer. So I've been doing a lot more SVG than I ever thought that I'd be able to do. So let's see, let's 0, 0. And then I think it's like L. I still have to look things up though. So
Yeah, a great resource for that is SVG Pocket Guide. I'll give the link to that.
Yes, it's a great one.
Yeah, SVG Pocket Guide by Joni, I believe. Yeah. This is a really fantastic resource that breaks down just the basics of SVG, and even goes into the path syntax, which is fantastic. So if we skip all the way to section 2, basic shapes and paths, you get down into polygon, and here's path data, and it breaks down each of the commands. So M means move to; it gets you at a specific point. Close path is not super necessary all the time if you're just doing lines. And then line 2 just draws a straight line, which is what we'll probably need most here. And then
the curved line is probably what we're going to want.
Yeah, so. For the 0, we may need that, or we can just use another circle element. But yeah. Anyway, if you're interested in SVG, I encourage you to check out SVG Pocket Guide. It's a great introduction to a lot of SVG concepts. All right. So let's. While David's doing that path, I'm going to add a stroke to it, so we can see. We'll see what he is drawing.
Oh yeah.
And we'll say fill equals none.
Yeah. Oof. My stroke is appropriately named. It's oof. Like oof, man. Hey, I made a curve. This is sort of what I want.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking, since it's 100 by 200, I'm just going to be doing basic semicircle math here. So our starting point is going to be
0.25 probably.
0.50. Because it's total.
Oh, it's 200. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then C, we're going to go 0, 0. So top point there. I'm thinking about like as if I were drawing this in Illustrator. So then it would be 100, 0. No, that doesn't sound right. 50, 0. And
yeah. A lot of times, if I'm hand doing them, I'll usually do the quadratic Beziers because it's just a little bit simpler of a syntax. It's just it goes from the initial control point. I don't know that we can get that right curve with that though.
Yeah, so no, we can't.
Cubic is the way to go.
I wish you could see the control points.
Yes.
I really do.
Yes. Browser DevTool developers, if you are watching, please, SVG DevTools. Just being able to visualize the path and see all of that, it would be huge.
All right. So then another C2, we want 100, 0. And then we want 100, 0, 150, 150. Boom. And then I wonder if I could do like this. Is this allowed? Is this legal?
Yes, it is allowed. I don't know if every browser specifically supports it, but it makes it much more parsable to break down the SVG like that.
And then, yep, see, true.
All right. So yeah, we're working on a SVG animation. I'll include the link again. We're not using GreenSock. We're just doing some stroke-dasharray. Oh wow! So how are you thinking that you'll do the?
Oh wait a minute.
Do you
something
want
like that?
Right.
we'll smooth out the curve later, and then we could just do another line from 200 to 200.
Do you want me to draw this out in vector program real quick to simplify 0 and all that?
Nah. Hand drawing, it's actually pretty fun, I have to say.
It can be.
I think we definitely got. I mean, the 2's the hard one, and so we could clean this up. But this one we could have the same path length equals 1, and then we could just animate that, and we're good to go.
Yeah. So yeah, if I change this circle down here to path, we'll already start seeing.
Wait, what's with the weird view box?
So one of the issues with SVG stroke is it's always from the center. You can't specify that you want the stroke on the inside of a path. So if you have your like the M here, you're starting at 0. So that's the 0 x coordinate. That path is going to expand beyond the SVG canvas there. So by expanding the view box, we don't have to have weird units here. We can just have a larger view box that is expanded in. Does that make sense?
It does, but I'm still. Isn't there some sort of property that could allow you to, like, you know how stroke line cap allows you to, tweak that? It's not stroke line cap, but there's going to be something pretty similar to that, I'm sure. I don't want to spend too much time.
So far there is not a property for that.
Okay, unfortunately. Okay, I guess there's not. That's fine. Yeah. All right, so we have our 2 being animated, and yeah, I'll clean up that little curve over there. Actually, drawing SVGs manually is a really, really good skill. I'm going to be honest. It's a good skill to have for a number of reasons, but we could basically copy this over once we, once it's all settled, and make the. Actually, I'm just going to copy this D, and D stands for something. I have no idea. Path D. D stands for why do they call it D?
Data. Path data.
Path D.
Yeah.
D for David.
So in the chat, Slayer Darth asks, do you need to know any math when writing SVG animations? Not really, but you have to kind of understand coordinates. So if you're used to like drawing in a vector program or anything like that with a grid, then you probably already understand coordinates a little bit. Like you want to go from 0 0 to 100 100. You don't have to do any like calculations based on that. It's just about doing the coordinates right. So having some geometry experience definitely helps in just understanding the concepts, and then algebra kind of math is helpful too, but it's not deeply required.
Right. I'm just going to post this tweet here by Dan Wilson. Really very great. Knows so much about the web animations API and animations in general in CSS. And he's making some sort of motion path tool that really helps you visualize and understand how your handwritten SVG path is actually being drawn on the screen based on the coordinates, on the operations such as move, draw a line, cubic Bezier, quadratic Bezier, stuff like that. So definitely keep an eye on that, because that's going to be really useful once that comes out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I need this tool, and he said, I'm still working on it. I'm like, I would happily take it in its current form. But yeah, I guess we have to be a little bit patient. So that's fine.
Yeah, I'll fix the view boxes there.
Okay.
Just to give us a little bit more, and actually, we'll probably want a larger stroke width overall. So that. There we go.
That's weird. That's not my second path isn't going all the way to 200. Oh wait, no. It's not. Should be.
What isn't?
Wow, it's veering off to the side. I need to go from.
So you want to stay at 100, 200. You want it to go
Oh, you're
straight
right.
down.
Wow.
Yeah.
My math was completely wrong. But in this case, I wanted 100.
And 150. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we want another C. Doing math, it's going to be
Just a negative x coordinate of those.
50, 200, 50, 200.
Or
Okay.
not negative. Yeah. If you were doing relative, it would be negative. But
then C 0. Oh, yeah. 0 to 100. Math. 0, 150. 0, 150.
Thanks for following.
It's a little bit of math. I'm not going to lie.
In the chat, you guys fancy doing any stuff with 3JS or playing WebGL at some point? We'd love to cover some of that. There's just such a high barrier of entry with a lot of that that we'll have to find a good way to introduce those concepts. I used to do a lot of 3JS stuff. I haven't done it in quite a while though. Fortunately.
Yeah. I think we're definitely going to dig into some of those more advanced concepts next year. Yeah, actually, let's start with these 2 and 0. So we want that, and we also want this circle animation. Now, what I'm thinking is that instead of using circle, we could just use path for that. What do you think?
Yeah, it makes the path length animation calculation a little bit more difficult, but
oh, really?
Right, because we'll have to have like the hook around, but we'll have to subtract that from the final like stroke dash offset. So it might be easier to have an actual circle that we then animate kind of out at the same time as that line is coming in.
Okay. Taking a look at the dribble again. Thankfully, it's a GIF, so we could use GIF scrubber.
Yes. Let's do 20 there. We'll do R50. Yeah, so you can see how that circle basically lines up with what you've got there, David. And one cool thing to note about SVG is it acts basically the same as like a HTML DOM, and like the Z index is based on source order there. So like this circle is after the path in the 2, so it's overlapping, and then this circle is before the path, so it's coming in before. So you can switch that circle to the top. And there we go.
Yep, that's wrong. So this should be at the top. This circle, this circle's at the bottom. Cool.
Yeah. I'm going to try moving these attributes up to the SVG. And let's see if that does anything.
I'm going to give each of these SVGs a class of digit too.
Path length needs to be actually on it, unfortunately.
Let's see, class equals digit.
Yeah. All right, so path, path length actually has to be on the element, just
okay.
FYI.
Yeah. So if you've ever played around with Illustrator, you'll know that one of the hardest but best tools to master is the pen tool. And playing around with the pen tool a lot really gives you an intuition for how to do these manual cubic Beziers. because then you're just imagining, how would I draw this with a pen tool? And the same way that you would draw it, if you could envision the anchor points, is the exact same as you would draw it manually. So to come to no surprise that using Adobe Illustrator or Inkscape or any of those other vector drawing programs like Figma or Sketch, it generates the same type of code. That's why SVG is a really good format.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to use Affinity Designer. That one's very, very cheap. It's like $50, sometimes less on sale, and that's not a subscription. It's just a one-time purchase, and that's it's got a very familiar interface, but a lot of cool additional add-ons that are nice as well. So check that out if you're in the market for an Illustrator lookalike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got the 2, we've got the O. Should we get the circle and the path coordinating first, or should we do the overlapping?
Well, what do you mean?
Should we get the circle draw animation coordinated first, or should we do the circle overlapping spread out?
Yeah, let's get the line animation first.
Okay.
So we can think about that.
All right, so circle and path, they're both using this stroke offset deal. We'll probably split those off. And we should probably nest this under digit, just for safety's sake. Okay. So what do you got going there with the digit?
Just planning the overall animation. So that has nothing to do with how it's drawn.
Okay. So you want me to talk through the drawing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can learn too.
Sure. So going back to the original, so we've got, it kind of draws the circle in, and then there's a pause. It spreads out, gets into position, and then kind of the circle starts to unwind itself. So let's look at that. All right, so starting out, let's get some CSS variables going. Root, so we'll say duration. We'll do the duration of the entire animation, which is what, like 3 seconds?
Mm-hmm. Give or take.
Yeah, we'll do ease as linear for right now, and then we'll go down. All right, so we'll do for these animation var duration var ease. Yeah, I'm sorry about the lag, everyone. I do not know what's happening on that. Let's do, so we'll split out the circle here. So we'll go circle, animation name, circle draw. Then we'll do draw. And we'll want to start all of these from stroke dash offset -1, I think. That's what we want. Stroke dash offset to 0. Let's see. Okay, that's very slow, but that's okay because this is just part of it. So we'll do like 0%, and then what, like 20% will be the complete circle. How do you like to handle the keyframe like to get the keyframes all lined up?
So we have a set duration, right, which is that 3 seconds, and basically we do it based on percent. So keyframes, from 25, 50, 75, 100%. So just, yeah, a 4-part animation.
Okay.
So as long as you stick to those numbers.
20 and 40%, and then 40 to 60%.
It's going to be a 25, 50, 75, 100. So basically they stop moving at 50%. So halfway through the animation, that's when they no longer do their moving thing.
Stroke-1, and then 75%. Actually, that can go through 100% for the circle. Don't need to do that. Yeah, so one thing to get used to with CSS animations is the way that it does percentage-based keyframes. That can be quite difficult to get used to. So for now, I've got the circle drawing in, so let me kind of copy this for the path. Yeah, my computer itself is struggling right now, so that's part of the issue. I'm terribly sorry. Path draw. All right, so David's working on some of the movement there. So we'll do 0% to 50%, I think. And then 50% will go to 0. This we'll do 75%.
Oh, cool. I get to use nth child even and nth child odd. It's always fun when you use things that you've never expected that you would have to use, but it's very helpful here.
Okay, so this.
Oh God.
I need to go from 1 to 0 for path draw because we're gonna kind of reverse the direction of it. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so that's working. Our 0, we might have to change the way the animation is set up. Or the path is set up, that is. Yeah, I'm gonna have to adjust the 0 here, so.
Sorry, just doing some hand math. I'm like, all right, so I have to set an X offset for each one of these because they all have to appear to be in the center. And so right now I'm doing manual math to do that, but I'm sure there's a way of automating it. But for simple animations like this, you don't really need to spend that much time doing that, in my opinion. Okay. Still think the Y is a little bit off. So, because the circle should be the other way. Yeah, the Y is like completely off. I think it should be 25%, negative 25. What am I thinking? Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so it starts there, that's good.
Ah, that looks about right. right, so I guess I have to tweak my animation because at first you're doing like the circle drawing animation, right?
Right.
So from 0%, you know what I mean, from 0% to 25%, nothing's happening.
Right.
And then 50%, that's when the magic starts. Or I could just add delay, but no, well, we'll do this. So, okay.
Yeah. Getting
we got
there.
something going on.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned about the math for the view box because the circles are a little bit offset. Or maybe that's easily tweakable. I don't know. Do I just have to add 5 pixels somewhere or something like that?
Well, it won't be pixels because it's all vector. So it's yeah, that changes things a bit. Let me see. I'm gonna delete these other ones and replace them with the 0 and other. Let's see here.
Thanks, Thor's Might Yar say. They say that it's like the code version of Bob Ross. And yes, it is. We will add happy little clouds and mountains in future episodes if you so request.
Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so the alignment. Happy little paths.
All right, yeah, the alignments, yeah, that's just, you could tweak that in the Y offset if you want, like just do a calc negative 25% plus 5 pixels, I guess. Just because you insist on having that little space there, which is fine. I understand the reason for it, but I need something to get upset at you about.
As per usual.
Did that fix it?
Kind of. Yeah. Pretty close.
Almost
pretty close. Yeah.
Let's do some more pixel pushing. Yeah. So why does that not align? All right, I'll let you tweak that. But yeah, it's just right there. Line 72 through 77 in the
CSS. Okay.
Yeah. At least the X's are good. X-axis, we are golden, but
yeah. Well, how are these actually being sized? Are they 100 pixels wide, or is there some other sizing happening?
It's all 100 pixels wide. Okay. So I am assuming that this is a 2x1 rectangle, which it is. It should be, but you have negative 10 to 120, 220, which makes it not exactly a, yeah. So we have to do a little bit of tweaking because the view box is a little bit weird. Everything else works out like 2x1, but the view box does not suggest that, unless it does. I don't know.
I've pretty much got it here. It's it's magic numbery, but yeah. Yeah. Is that all right for you? Is that sufficient?
Let me see. Yeah, close enough.
It's aligned here for me, basically. But yeah, the more you mess with that view box attribute, it can get problematic. So,
Yeah. Now let me show you a cool little trick that I'm gonna do, and you're gonna hate this trick, but I want spacing between. Don't know what you're doing. I want spacing between like the 2020, just like it is in the GIF, but I really, really don't want to do any more math. So instead, I'm going to transform scale like 0.9 or something like that, and let's see what happens.
Well, you'll have to add that to all of your animation as well.
Oh, okay. Fine.
Yeah, this wasn't the approach I was planning for the layout of it, but it'll work. So the scale needs to happen after the transform, or the translating. That is.
Yeah. So just, yeah.
And then it should line up. Nope.
Yeah, that works.
That's a little off in the alignment for me, which I'm not sure why.
Well, whose fault is that?
Good question.
Okay, so you're saying that the transform sort of messes with the alignments over here.
Yeah. Something like that.
Well, you know what we could do? This might be shooting myself in the foot, but we could... Actually, no, it's not a problem. Here, I'm going to get rid of the scale. Don't worry about the scale. We could do something else here. Let them touch. So this is just going to be transform none. And never mind. Where was I going with this? It's going to say if we make each of these like a margin 0, like 1 rem, see what happens there. Oh, we could animate margin. It's a terrible idea. Never mind. Let's not do that.
Yeah, I was gonna just adjust the view box a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking. Would that work?
It will, but it's gonna change the transforms a little bit too, because it's gonna change the dimensions of the box.
Yeah. Wow, these things get tricky.
They do. So yeah, I'm just adjusting them all in the same way. Just giving a little more space around the paths themselves. Looks like our 2s are a little off.
And yeah, so we're not trying to emulate, for those watching, we're not trying to emulate the exact animation over here. We're just trying to, do it in our style and get the basic idea of it.
Inspired by.
Yeah, inspired. I'm guessing they use a program like After Effects in order to get that really interesting path looking thing, because those are some complex paths in the original animation, because you have a lot of concentric circles and nested paths and everything like that. So yeah, we could do it. It would just take a lot longer than an hour or two.
Don't understand that. There we go. Okay. Like 110 is probably what I want there. Sure.
Then gonna add some more CSS variables for the color so that we could apply them to each of these. And the fill could actually be, or sorry, the stroke could be taken from that variable, right? In fact, that could be done in the actual, in the HTML, which is probably not a good idea, but hey, it works, I think. Yeah, it does work. That's funny. You could use CSS variables in HTML. So if you learn anything from this, but this is one of those canvas should type things. I think that we could actually assign the stroke in the CSS. Yeah, we definitely can in the CSS itself. So we'll go ahead and do that.
I'm setting that up already.
Yep, going to be going all Game of Thrones on this stroke stuff and deleting it all. I actually never really watched Game of Thrones, but let's see, stroke with yes. Be gone strokes. Stroke. Okay. So now the only downside to this is that there's a really ugly brown color that materializes.
That's just the stroke-dasharray that I have.
That's
or
great.
the stroke opacity that I have.
That's fantastic. And then we have some circle. Aha. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Can I use my favorite easing?
Yeah.
All right, let's see if that works. For the line animation too?
Yeah. It'll apply if you're...
It's a little bit snappy. I don't know if I like its attitude. Let's do a 0.20, 0.21. That's going to make it ease off at the end, but still go pretty fast. So it is snappy. It has attitude. Jeez. Okay, that's a little bit too much attitude. I'm trying to think of, let's do a 0.0 or 0.20, 0.81. It's okay.
Yeah, let me...
We could also like lengthen the duration, and that probably helps with the...
Yeah, I would recommend that.
Nice. All right, I'm actually digging this.
That's much better. There you go. All right, now I can hide that outline. Yeah, one thing we can do too, just to try out, is going from stroke-dasharray. You can actually animate the stroke-dasharray as well to get some fun effects.
Okay, so we have path. Let's stroke, line join, arc, I believe it is. No, round. Just kidding. It's round. Just smoothing out some of the round parts over here. Yeah, that looks nice.
Yeah, it's better. So yeah, one thing I adjusted the stroke-dasharray there. Instead of going from 1.1, I've got it as 0.21. So there's more of a gap of things.
One weird thing right now though is the circles spreading out. It doesn't feel like it's all coming from the same circle. Is there any way to make it like a full circle before it does that?
Yeah. So that would just be -2 here.
Yeah, because otherwise that illusion is lost. That it's coming from. Yes, beautiful. So there's one more thing just to get a little bit closer to the animation, and I could change this on the digit end too. So the circles move to position, right? Like their jagged top bottom position, and then they expand. So I think we need to tweak the drawing animation to just wait one more. So basically we could do a 0, 20, 40, 60, 80. What do you think?
Sure.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So basically it would start at what, 80 or something?
What are you, which animation?
The circle draw animation. So basically let the circle be fully drawn. Which one is where the circle's fully drawn?
Stroke-offset -2.
All right, so this one. So this one will be 20%, 40%. Then this is going to be 60, and then this is going to be 80, I think. Sort of. So this is going to be 60 and then 80.
Well, probably more like that, I think.
Oh, actually this is 0, 80, and then...
Whoa.
Oh, no, that's taking too long. So 0, 60, I think.
What are you adjusting? Oh.
Yeah, the end. So...
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that right?
I probably did something wrong, but that's his general idea.
Oops.
Sorry, I messed up your whole choreography.
No, it's pretty much
there. We go. Yeah, that is very close. Nice.
Ooh. Like that.
And actually, oh, you're going to hate me. Actually, you're not going to hate me. I hope. From translate, rotate 0. And then you're going to think this is cool, or at least I hope so. 20% to transform. Why did I get that wrong? Transform, and then rotate 1 turn. Oh, wait, what did I do? Wait, no. Yeah, did something wrong. Never mind. Discard me.
What are you doing?
Well, so I was thinking it would be a cool effect if only the last circle. Actually, no, all of the circles spin together. Aha. Okay, I have a better idea. And by better I mean worse idea. But I'm gonna make a a wrapper element called digits. This is just gonna be nice and quick. All right, so we have these digits together, and dot digits, display flex direction row. I mean, that should just work. Wait, why are the animations off? That's weird.
Which animations?
Do I have to refresh my browser, or
maybe?
Okay.
I'm playing with the circle intro portion. So that might be what you're seeing.
So that's what that is. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry about that then. Solid. Let's see what that is. So we have. Okay. Cool. So spin from transform. Or just none. 20%. 1, 1 turn, and then So now we have these layered animations, and so whatever you're doing with the circle animation is just going to look really cool because it's doing some sort of double spinny thing. Not sure 20% is enough, but oh, that's bad. Just keep it at 20%.
Let's see. So you're rotating the entire container there.
Right.
Yeah, they're not perfectly aligned in the center for some reason, but
it's doing a lot of crazy spin. Should I remove that? Is that a little bit too superfluous? Probably is.
It works, I think.
Let's see. It's just going crazy in the beginning. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, I'm not seeing it on repeat. I don't think it. Right,
Oh.
it's not infinite repeat, so hard to tell.
Okay, oops. All right, so now here's your infinite repeat. It does go a little bit crazy. I'm just going to remove it for now. And at least we have that container. And yeah, with that said, this looks awesome.
I'm happy with where this has ended up. Shall we keyflect?
Let's keyflect.
All right. We're now moving into Keyflections, a quick review of the techniques we've used to build this animation. If you have any questions, ask us in the chat and we'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, and if you've enjoyed watching us so far, you can follow and subscribe here on Twitch or YouTube if you're watching later, or you can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers, and links are available below.
Check them out. Also, don't forget keyframe.rs/merch, where you can buy t-shirts, stickers, and more. You'll definitely like that. Check it out. So today we've been working on this 2020 animation by GoodMe. It's got a lot of cool little aspects to it, and we wanted to kind of showcase this this drawing technique. So the circles kind of draw in, split apart, and then wrap around into the numbers, which is really cool. So we wanted to replicate that. So we did with some hand-drawn SVG for extra fun. You want to walk us through the basic setup?
Yeah, sure. So we decided to have 4 separate SVG elements, and that's because we want to transform them individually. And there's no penalty cost doing this. You could just have as many SVGs as you want in your document, and you could treat them as normal HTML elements, which makes the mental model of animating them a lot simpler. So each of these SVGs represents each digit. We are assigning the color via style, and we have 2 parts. We have a circle and the path. And so the circle and the path are overlaid on top of each other with a little bit of vector manual drawing stuff. I mean, you could see we kept things pretty reasonable. We have 100, 50, 200, just making sense of everything. Yeah, so these are aligned on top of each other because the plan, which Shaw is going to describe, is we are going to draw these on top of each other. So we're going to have a fancy SVG drawing animation.
Right. So one of the ways that we've simplified the drawing animation is using this pathLength attribute. So you'll see that on both the path and the circle. What this does is traditionally with SVG drawing animations, you have to do like the actual JavaScript calculation to get the length of the path and then apply that in some specific way. But SVG2 spec that at least Chrome and Firefox have implemented allows you to actually tell the browser, I just want this path length to be 1. And then you can use that value in the properties stroke-dash. So you've got stroke-dasharray and stroke-dashoffset. So stroke-dasharray basically gives you in a list of how you want the dash to appear. So it's basically solid and then transparent. So right now we have 1, 1, which means the entire path, there's a fully filled in segment and then a fully transparent segment. And then we use stroke-offset to move that around the path so that it goes from looking like there is no stroke to there is a full stroke. And that's what gives that drawing effect. David shared a link earlier to how SVG line animation works. You should check that out. It's a great introduction to the concept that's made even more simple by the pathLength attribute. PathLength equals 1. I was talking to Chris today. He actually has an article queued up is working on an article on the pathLength bit there. So that should be worth checking out.
Oh, nice.
So anyway, the circle and the path, we're using just CSS keyframes to animate those stroke dashes to get the offset to draw it in, and then we're doing some additional funny stuff with the circles to give it kind of a neat intro there. But the path draws is pretty straightforward. It goes from stroke-offset 1, which means it's fully transparent, to stroke-offset 0, which means the line is drawn in. So that's what gives those. All right, so walk us through the digits there.
All right, so now the tricky part, the choreography. Always a tricky thing just because CSS doesn't really give you an easy way to choreograph multiple complex animations together. So we have to sort of munch some numbers together and get them placed just right. And so that's why when we thought about how we want to split up this animation into stages or scenes, we first thought it would be a 4-part thing, but then it turned to a 5-parts thing, which means divide 100 into 5, you're going to have 20% intervals. And so as long as all of your keyframes use the exact same duration and the exact same intervals, such as 20%, 40%, 60%, it's going to line up perfectly. And so I use this in many animations, and we've done this in a lot of previous episodes too, where we had similar choreographed animations. So what happens is for each child in the digits in the CSS, so I'm on line 68 over here, each child, we have a CSS variable saying what its X offset should be. So naturally, all of these digits are right next to each other, but I add this X offset to say, when you start, you're going to start in the center. And so we have to move these by a certain percentage in order to get that to happen. Now, we also have a Y offset, and that's because each of the 2 digits appear below center, and each of the odd digits, the O digits or 0 digits, appear above center. So we do a little bit of math here. I actually don't know what this 12% and 2% is.
It's just to line them up because we were having issues with the view box. Real quick, I'll just do that. So the view boxes, we started out with 0, 0, 100, 200 because we just wanted a 1x2 kind of rectangle to work with. But when you're drawing an SVG stroke, the stroke is drawn from the center of the path. There's no other option to do it from the inside of the path or outside of the path. So if you have let's say, so this circle right here, it's got a radius of 50. If that's within a 100 width canvas, the stroke is going to go outside of it. So what we did is we just baked in a little bit of padding, basically, for the view box, going from -20 to 140 for the width, and then -20 to 240 for the height. And that gives enough space for our 20 stroke width. So it ended up with some specialized math to get them exactly lined up. But yeah, there we are.
Yes. Yeah, so all these paths then move from their center positions to their normal position. So this is similar to the philosophy we have with flip animations, where you move it from some unnatural position, I want to call it, to its natural resting position. And so that makes the animation a lot easier than moving it from a natural resting position to an unnatural position. So ultimately, we're transforming these to none, and that should be the end goal. And so we just move them and we shift them, and they go to their natural resting position. So that's what choreography is all about.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's it for the most part. If you want to know more, go back and watch the full thing if you skipped ahead, or leave us a comment. We'll be happy to explain. Yeah, but we wanted to celebrate 2020 with a little animation for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Turned out really well.
Yeah, I like it. I dig it. Well, yeah. You've been watching Keyframers. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to see more from David and I, there are many ways you can support us. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers. That's a huge support to us each month. Thank you very much to all of our patrons. And you can also support us through our merch store. If you go to keyframe.rs/merch, that will get you to our merch store. Check that out. We've got lots of t-shirts, stickers, and other things. So check that out. And it helps us out if you subscribe and participate on these live streams each week, or like and subscribe at youtube.com/keyframers, where we have all of our past episodes and other videos that you can enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of episodes, we do accept submissions for future episodes, so please tweet us at Keyframers with any animations you'd like to see made. We're serious. We take any challenge that you throw at us. Well, almost any challenge. Also,
we don't necessarily accept the challenge, but we'll take it.
We'll take them, and we will look at them and be like, "That's such a cool animation," and then move on. So please be sure to share this video and demo across all of your social platforms. Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, adios, amigos.
Adios.